cost of living in Orange County, California, just how expensive is it? Is it still affordable? Well, the real question is, was it ever affordable? I don't know, maybe like 100 years ago. But let's get into it. We'll talk about the prices of housing and all of that a little bit later in the video, but let's start with energy costs. So, energy, very high, very expensive.
What?
Very expensive in all of California. You know, your electricity costs, very high. I would say and then of course, you know, gas-powered cars, gas is very high. I'd say the only thing that's like actually fairly good is natural gas.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I don't know if you have anything to add. Like when people have inefficient air conditioning systems, a lot of times they're quite surprised, right, by the electric bill every month.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about, okay, so on an absolute scale, our electricity is high, our fuel is high. You know, that is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, how do you mitigate or how do you exacerbate that problem, right? So like part of that is because you could be dealing with a house that's older, which again, a lot of Orange County tends to be, where you have these, you know, older HVAC systems, which could definitely be very inefficient, and therefore like your electricity costs will skyrocket, especially in the summertime. Or you're dealing with situations where you're dealing with, like, you know, maybe the insulation needs to be up there, you know, like done. Or there's just things that you can do, or like actually even speaking of insulation, like some homes may not have double pane windows. So those are things that where you can mitigate a lot of that by having newer HVAC system, newer windows, and all of those stuff.
So I know we started off on a negative note. Let's actually do something positive about Orange County, and I would say that this is something that is a little bit rare for large urban areas, and that the public schools in all of Orange County tend to be very highly ranked. We always say whatever city you're living in, you have the option for a highly ranked school. Maybe the one that you're zoned for isn't the most highly ranked, but that's one thing that I think makes Orange County stand out, is that you don't have to do private school, so that's a big cost savings.
Yeah, no matter where you are in the county. Of course, you know, people know about, you know, like people have reached out to us knowing about Irvine's, you know, like school system as far as like it being highly rated, which it is. But there are, you know, again, throughout the entire county, there are schools sprinkled throughout the entire county that are actually really highly rated. Now, it may not be exactly what you're zoned for, but what we tend to find is that a lot of these schools do have options where you can transfer into them pretty easily. So,
or lottery into them. It's like a charter school, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Oddly enough, Irvine's actually pretty strict about it, but they tend to have just good schools in general, again, according to niche.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we continue, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Sean Dezad.
And I'm Courtney Dezad, and we are licensed real estate agents here in the state of California.
And if you're watching this channel, you might be thinking, wow, Sean, I love the blue skies. I love that. I can't even tell what time of year it is because it's so beautiful all the time. I can't wait to move it here. Now, the problem is that I'm not local. I may be out of state. I may be even out of the country, so I don't know what to do. And I totally get that. That's why you reach out to us so we can have that conversation to find out specifically what you're looking for, and we can be your boots on the ground to find that perfect property for you. We can even do interior, you know, like virtual tours of the property itself, as well as the neighborhood, to really give you a good feel of it. So when you do come out here, your time is spent super efficiently. So what you want to do is you want to give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country. Now let's talk about groceries. I mean, I'd say like groceries are pretty much average. Like I'd say they're average like anywhere, because these are large national chains, right? Like they're the same no matter where you are.
Yeah, I haven't noticed it being dramatically different one way or the other. I guess it just depends on if you're, again, as a Californian, you start to get a little bit more hippie about things, where you do go for the organic stuff, or the free, like, or the pasture-raised eggs and all these other things,
or the raw milk,
So as you start to do these things, of course your grocery costs are going to skyrocket because you're going there. But you find yourself so tempted to, because the weather makes you want to feel more healthy, to enjoy outside. So obviously one way to do that is to obviously eat better.
Yeah, I mean, California is the breadbasket of the United States, so we have a lot of great local farms. So we do have that option, whether you're purchasing it at the grocery store or the farmer's market, to be purchasing, you know, those high-end foods. But, you know, in terms of like just regular groceries, I'd say it's like pretty average.
Yeah, and obviously if you are getting organic foods, it's going to be about the same price throughout the country anyway.
Yeah. Now let's talk about transportation. So as we were saying, gas for cars in California is the highest in the United States.
But we do have all other options, right? Tons of mass transit options. Don't worry about it.
And in Orange County, we don't have mass transit. So, I mean, we do, but you know, it's not, you need
it's not robust.
Yeah, it's not robust.
Say, yeah, like when people have reached out to me, they're like, Sean, do you, I don't have a car. I only go by bike. Like, it's hard for me to say, you're okay, don't worry about it, because I don't want to lie, but it's going to be very hard to get around without a car. I mean, it just is. I mean, now we do have MetroLink. Again, it's like a train system that is helpful. It's there. It's not like Paris or London where you have stops all over the place. It's very limited from that perspective.
Yeah. Then childcare, you know, I would say that's extremely expensive, but honestly, like my sister lives in Texas. It's extremely expensive there. Like it's extremely expensive everywhere. I mean, of course, in Orange County, you have some very, very like expensive private schools, but like we were saying before, it's not required here. Like, you know, I've always heard like Hawaii, like you have to do private schools, or like San Francisco.
Or like the big cities, they tend to kind of have to.
Yeah.
But whereas in Orange County, like you really do have. I found it completely unnecessary to have to like go to a private school. Again,
you can
do it, for sure. And then there's plenty of options from that perspective too.
Yeah. Now let's talk about healthcare costs. So bestplaces.net always tends to rank California as like lower than average in terms of healthcare. And I would actually agree with that, just because I would say that because California makes it so business unfriendly and, you know, insurance companies and other healthcare companies, they can't really make a profit in California. Well, that is cost savings is passed on to you. So I would say like our insurance is better than like my sister's. It's in Texas, and we have insurance we have to buy ourselves.
That's like a group plan kind of thing.
Yeah, whereas like she has it through a company and she doesn't get as much paid for it as we do. Of course, you know, you pay for that in other ways, but I would actually agree that like in the end, we probably pay less in healthcare than she does.
Yeah, and also obviously to kind of help with the whole health cost too, besides healthcare itself, is the fact that really like Californians tend to be on the more healthy side of things. Like, you know, because you do find the weather is so inviting to be outdoors more often, so you're doing more physical activity. You are getting a lot of natural like vitamin D with sunlight. So you're kind of finding yourself just being naturally more healthy. So I guess that also helps too.
For sure, that definitely helps. Now let's talk about the cost of like recreating. So I would actually say is surprisingly low here because there's so much you can do outside for free. Of course, if you're going to like Disneyland, it's going to be insanely expensive. Like,
well, you don't have to pay for the flight to get here though.
That's true.
So
family of four easily dropping $1,000, which is probably why we're not going, because I'm like, hey, I can buy a ticket to London for that, so I'd rather go there. So like, yeah, that's just us. But yeah, in terms of like your everyday, you know, stuff that you're doing, I would actually say that you spend less money here because you can be outside all the time.
Yeah, you have so like the outdoors is your playground. I mean, there's so much to do here in so many different ways.
Now let's talk about taxes. So taxes are very high here. I mean, that every time we pay our state taxes, I take the check and I'm like, oh, like this could be like a really nice trip to Europe, but that's just, you know.
Yeah, so we have state income tax, we have sales tax, of course. Now, I will say that from one perspective, our taxes actually aren't bad, and that's property taxes. So because of Proposition 13, the property tax, the assessed value stays more or less about where you purchase the property, like the purchase price of the property. And as we've seen over the years, that can go up tremendously. So the fact that, a lot of other states, pretty much every other state, they reassess every year, right? So then that can, you know, property that you bought in the 1980s would be worth a heck of a lot more than it is today, or a lot less than it is today. And so you're paying property tax off that, you know, new assessed value, whereas in California you stay relatively fixed. I mean, there's like some nuance to that, but you know, it's really keeps the property tax rate pretty low. And also beyond that, our property tax rate is basically 1.1%. So it's pretty low as far as the assessed value, except for Melrose. That could be pretty pricey.
Yeah, but I would say like overall, you know, California is known as a very high tax burden state, and it is.
Okay, so we're done. So there's nothing else to worry about for like cost of living here. Everything is completed. Okay, we're done.
Okay.
So yay!
Now let's talk about the elephant in the room.
What's that?
Cost of housing.
Oh.
So yes.
That.
So
That's a small like component though.
So this is. We're talking about this for 2024. So as we've seen, prices have skyrocketed, interest rates have skyrocketed. It is very expensive in Orange County. You want to talk about, you know, what the prices are like, and then what do you see in terms of the upcoming year, like how everything's going to go?
Yeah, so from one component, I think we're anticipating with interest rates, like again, people are projecting interest rates coming down. That'll definitely help ease the monthly payment burden on these properties. But again, having said that, again, the property values here are pretty much like, I would say about, in general, about triple that of the nation.
Yeah.
Like plus, depending on what city you are.
Yeah.
Way more than like 10 times plus.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on where you are. So of course, you know, Orange County is a relatively small landmass. You're dealing with the best weather in the world. It's very desirable to move here. And there's a lot of jobs here. There's a lot of things going on here where people just want to be here. And there's just, when you have that much demand and not so much supply, you're going to have high prices. It just is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, do you see prices going up in 2024? Or?
You know, if interest rates start to come down as people are projecting, actually I do, because we're still dealing with a situation where we have very, very limited supply. So again, anything can happen, but I'm not, you know, the things that you kind of look for, like one of the telltale signs is, you know, like high foreclosure activity or whatever. We're seeing virtually zero foreclosure stuff. Like, so virtually zero short sales, virtually zero foreclosures. So when you don't have that distress level and everyone seems to have equity, they don't have to sell at fire sale prices. So their thing is that because of that, we're gonna just kind of see prices either fairly stable or actually going up, most likely.
Yeah. And then even though, you know, Orange County is super, super expensive, one thing that we always like to say is that, you know, when you actually look at, okay, Orange County is one of the most desirable places to live in the world. When you look at that, we actually think it has good value because there's certainly many places in the world where it's way more expensive. Even in the state of California, like LA is more expensive, San Francisco is more expensive, the Bay Area is more expensive. So we actually think it has good value. Of course, it's still incredibly expensive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is, again, like, I mean, honestly, I would say relatively speaking, we've done little videos, and actually, if you want to check out, like, we've actually like compared Laguna Beach and Newport Beach to some of the most prime places in the world to live, because honestly, they are of that ilk. Like, they offer that quality of life where you can go toe to toe with any place in the world, and actually from that perspective, it's really, really good value.
Yeah.
And remember, we are licensed realtors here in the state of California. So as much as we love making these videos, what we love more is to help you with your real estate needs. So whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, what you want to do is when you give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country.